welcome to MPBN's coverage of LePage, Governor Paul LePage's 2015 State of the State Address. I'm Jennifer Rooks along with Leary, and we are coming to you from just outside the House chamber in the State House in Augusta. Both the House and Senate are gathered in joint convention of the legislature to hear the governor's speech, and he is expected in the chamber shortly. Mal, what can we expect?
I think we can expect the unexpected. Governor LePage always likes to surprise people. In fact,
the convention will be in order.
Look on his face out in the hallway, getting ready to go in anticipation, I think, of what he's going to say in the next few minutes.
Hear ye, hear ye! Make way, make way, make way for His Excellency, the Governor and Commander-in-Chief of the State of Maine, the Honorable Paul R. LePage, and the Chief Justice of the Maine Supreme Court, the Honorable Lee Ingalls Softly.
The Chair is pleased to welcome the Honorable Paul Richard LePage, Governor of the State of Maine, accompanied by the Honorable Lee L. Softly, Chief Justice of the Maine Supreme Judicial Court.
Chief Justice Lee Softly accompanying the governor as he hugs legislators on both sides of the aisle.
One of the governor's major topics is going to be tax reform. He's already announced that he's going to go on the road to sell his tax reform package, and he's going to use his speech tonight to try to accomplish that goal.
The Chair would like to thank this evening's herald, Staff Sergeant Sarah Kaya. Would she please rise and accept the greetings of the convention? The Chair would request Governor Paul Richard LePage please step forward and address the joint convention.
Good evening. Chief Justice Softly, President Thibodeau, Speaker Eves, members of the 127th Legislature, distinguished guests, and fellow Mainers. Tonight, I am here to update you on the condition of the state of Maine. But first, I would like to recognize my lovely wife, Anne. Would you stand up, dear? If it wasn't for Anne, I certainly wouldn't be the governor of the state of Maine. She has made our state very proud of her being our First Lady, especially through the support and hard work that she gives our veterans and military families. And we are indebted to you forever, my love. To my family and close friends, I appreciate all you have done and continue to do for us in your support, especially Charlie Gauntz, who got me in this mess. Staff Sergeant Sarah Kaya, the Military Herald this evening, thank you for your courageous service to our state and nation. I would like to thank all military personnel, present, past, and future, for the service and the loyalty you present to our great nation. You certainly make Maine very, very proud. Now, before I start on my remarks this evening, I need to make a very important announcement. I am the only Republican governor not running for president. Yet. I became governor for one simple reason. I want prosperity and not poverty for all Maine people. Doing business as usual has hurt our ability to be competitive. It favors poverty and prevents the prosperity that we all desire. Mainers, it's time to innovate. We need an efficient, effective, and affordable government. But change is hard. It's much easier to protect the status quo. You know, studies sit on shelves collecting dust. Politicians talk about reforming our tax code every year, but nothing meaningful gets done. We must make hard decisions today so we can have a prosperous tomorrow for future generations. I make tough decisions my whole life. The necessary decisions I've made to help struggling companies get better. I was a mayor. I understand the needs versus the wants of communities. As governor, for well over a year now, we have listened intently to Mainers. They want to succeed and prosper. My budget takes bold action, and it's a first step, and it's a big leap. But friends, I cannot do it alone. I need your help. This budget needs to be done together. The Maine people want results, not rhetoric. They want action. And frankly, they deserve it. Washington, D.C. is broken. Our future depends more and more on our states. They are the 50 laboratories of democracy. We as a nation have the highest income tax in the world. We are no longer competitive on the world stage. We have dropped from number one. Maine is currently not competitive nationally, not competitive globally, and in some respects, not even competitive in New England. Our tax system is antiquated, and we must modernize. My fellow Mainers, you work hard for your paycheck. The government should be allowing you to keep your hard-earned money and not taking it and spending it without you having a say in it. You earned it, you should keep it. Come on. An income tax cut puts money in Mainers' pockets. It is the largest pay raise Mainers will be receiving. We are moving to a consumption tax. where people can make a choice when they spend their money. You decide how, when, and where you'll spend your money. But let me be clear. This tax cut will not be taxing funerals. It's not taxing car repairs. It's not going to tax groceries or other basic necessities. My plan makes sure more taxes are paid by tourists, not by Mainers. Approximately 650,000 tax returns, Maine tax returns, pay the entire income tax bill. We have 29 million people who visit our state in a year. I think by broadening the sales tax and increasing it a little bit, we can get them to contribute far more to the revenue source the state needs than we currently do. Secondly, Maine is the #1 state with second homeowners from around the country. In the summer, we are one of the richest, wealthiest states in America. I think they ought to pay a little bit more for enjoying our state. And so I don't feel bad if we ask them to pay a little bit more property tax. Because people don't leave the state of Maine for property taxes. They don't leave the state of Maine for sales taxes. But they do leave the Maine when we go after their earnings. And so therefore, our refundable sales tax credit will help the lower and middle income Mainers to get money, more of the money that they pay in back. This plan is different than past plans. It's not a tax shift. This is a tax cut for all Mainers. My vision for Maine is a Maine without an income tax. But I'm not a magician. It's going to take a little time, and it takes help. I can't do it alone, and I'm asking for your help to pass the elimination of the income tax. When I took office, Maine's top income tax rate was 8.5%, one of the highest in the nation. We lowered it to 7.95%, small incremental step. It was a baby step. Now we're going to 5.75% with the full intentions of getting it to 0. The 5.75% will make it a 40% cut in income tax since I've been your governor. A young married couple, both teachers, with a child, claiming a standard deduction, would get a $1,500 pay raise. That's a mortgage payment for many. Could be a couple of barrels or oil deliveries for a home, several car payments, even clothes for the kids to return to school. It's real money. It makes a real difference. Our tax plan, our revenue plan, is not revenue neutral. It is a clear intent on lowering the tax for Maine people. Revenue neutral are usually brought in when there's a lot of political gain. It's a lot of hype. I will tell you, I do have, like many politicians, have a special interest group. I do. My special interest is the Maine people. This plan reduces taxes on Maine families and businesses by $300 million a year. That's a real pay raise to the Maine people. If Maine is to prosper, we must have the courage to innovate and move forward. There are 9 states in America without an income tax. There are 19 states that this year, going into their legislatures, are looking to reduce or eliminate the income tax. We in Maine, we put together a plan that we could be first out of the chute so that we could be noticed and have the job creators around the country to show that we are really serious about getting good jobs, better paying jobs, and a solid economy for the Maine people. I want to show the nation that we're not at the end of the pipeline, but at the beginning of a new day. The Tax Foundation says this plan will propel Maine's ranking from 33rd to 23rd. That's not a jump, that's a pretty good leap. But 23rd is still not good enough. I think we ought to be in the top 10 because it's the job creators in America don't go much beyond the top 10. Maine's corporate tax is a job killer. It is the highest in the country, or was recently the highest in the country. My plan cuts it and it eliminates the alternative minimum tax. That will catapult Maine from 45th in the nation to 17th in the nation on corporate taxes. Now that's being a little bit more competitive. Job creators recognize that. Our past rankings say stay away from Maine. My new plan says, let's look at Maine. Maine wants our jobs. That's the message I want to be sending America. You know, local officials care about municipal budgets, and they ought to. I was a mayor. They take money from Mainers to grow the city, the town, or the city, or their town offices. I care deeply of the people who live in those towns. I want to give Mainers their hard-earned money back. Someone must lobby for Maine taxpayers. The Maine Municipal Association is supposed to represent cities and towns. MMA is not a taxpayer-friendly organization. I found that out in 1998 when I became a city councilor in the city of Waterville. Its mission is to protect the elected officials, not the local taxpayer. Your local officials pay dues to MMA with your tax dollars. MMA uses those dues to fight for bigger and more expensive local government. Since 1998, I have never seen the MMA say, let's cut taxes. And if you heard it, let me correct myself, but I have never heard it. I've never read it in their documentation. I've never read it in their flyers. I read their agenda today, and there was absolutely nothing in their agenda for this coming session that lowers taxpayers' burden, not a penny. The only burden that I saw today is get rid of this budget, it's bad. I'm sorry, but I will stand here and say to you again, I represent the Maine people. I think we should call them the Middleman Association because they pit the local taxpayer against the local elected official. Never do they try to get them to work together. And that's very, very concerning. Give you an example. In Waterville, the city manager worries about losing $1 million in revenue sharing. Neighboring Winslow gets roughly $500,000 in revenue sharing. That's all that you've been hearing the last 2 or 3 weeks. The residents of Waterville and Winslow combined are paying $17 million per year in income tax. That's what I'm worried about. That's the pockets I want to make sure they fill with their own money. I asked them, would you trade $1.5 million for a little more property taxes to save $17 million in your pocket? You know, when I was at Martin's, I'd have taken that deal all day long. You know, over the years, and many of you who've been here many years and many terms know that there have been many property tax relief programs that have passed this House and passed referendum. And each and every one of them has failed. When LD1 was passed, the state of Maine had 37% of its general fund go to communities. In 2015, the current budget, 37% of general fund revenues are going to communities. Nothing has changed. And property taxes have been spiraling upwards. And I will tell you, as a mayor, or as a governor, or as a businessman, I have never entered a company and haven't been able to find 10% right off the top. Because when you're so close to the trees and you miss the forest, there's a lot of inefficiencies that are low-hanging fruit. So programs to lower property taxes should benefit homeowners, not government offices. My plan expands the property tax fairness credit that will help low and middle income Mainers. We doubled the homestead exemption to our senior citizens. They've worked very hard all their lives to own their home, and I want to make sure they can stay in it for as long as they want. We are trying to identify all other sources of revenue that communities can have. We are giving them the telecommunication excise tax. We're allowing them to collect tax revenues from large nonprofits. Surely, these large nonprofits provide good services. However, they are also large users of services. And I think that they should pay a little bit. And I understand that it's distasteful to tax nonprofits. But they have to contribute, because everyone that works in the nonprofits is going to be a benefactor and benefit greatly from our plan. There's going to be a lot more revenues in the marketplace that can be donated to charitable organizations. So I think that they need to help us do their share and their part in moving our state forward. For our state to prosper, everyone has to chip in. Working class Mainers cannot do it alone. My budget is not a Band-Aid to get us through the next budget cycle. It drives prosperity for decades to come. It looks past the next election and focuses on the next generations. We need to attract young people to Maine. we need to attract young families to Maine. Most of all, we need to keep our retirees here in Maine. I'm looking to reduce the tax burden on our families, our veterans, and our retirees. Family businesses are the backbone of our economy. We are a pass-through state, and the overwhelming majority of our 40-some-odd thousand companies are small companies. We must keep them alive and well. We will eliminate the estate tax. There's only There's only 19 states in America that impose the death tax. It punishes hard-working families. It's a hit-and-miss tax. Some years you get $30 million, other years you get $14 million. And what does it do? Every single year for the last decade, a minimum of $12 million in hard assets leave our state because as you turn 65, you move to Florida, South Carolina, Texas, Nevada. We really need to stop that. We want to keep our retirees here, and more importantly, let's keep their money here too. My plan ends tax on military pensions. And why do I go out immediately to eliminate the 100% tax on military pensions? It's because there's a massive downsizing that's going to happen in the next year or two. We just got notified that National Guard is being downsized. So what do we want to do? We want to attract these young people to Maine so they can start their second careers. We want them here to contribute to our growth and our prosperity. And too many Mainers move to Florida or elsewhere for 6 months and a day. Listen, I'm not against anybody going to Florida. Just want to shorten it a little bit. Maybe 2 months, January, February, come back in March. 6 months and a day is too long. We're losing too many good residents. We're losing their asset base, but more importantly, that nobody discusses, is we lose their intellectual properties, their intellectual values to our state. They have the wisdom. They've been through many things, and they've learned a lot, and they can leave a lot for Mainers and help Mainers here. And so I believe we should strive to keep them all here. And my budget, for the first time in a very, very long time, ensures that the most vulnerable will be getting care and getting attention from the state. Through our reforms, we're taking care of our elderly, our disabled, and people with intellectual disabilities. We're increasing funding to nursing homes, and I will continue to fight for nursing homes. They've been underfunded. want to go on too long, but I got to tell you all a quick little story that I realized on the campaign trail. Last year, we lost 2 nursing homes. They were rural nursing homes. I happened to be in a nursing home in southern Maine, and I met this lady who's 88 years old, who every single day, she gets up, she dresses up as pretty as could be. She goes to a nursing home where her husband has been there for 3 years with dementia. He doesn't even recognize her. She feeds him, she cares for him, she reads to him, and at 4 o'clock she goes home. If we lose any more rural nursing homes, some little lady won't be able to do that. Maine needs common sense welfare reforms. We are drug testing TANF recipients, and I'm not embarrassed to say that welfare funds should not be used to support a drug habit. We are putting pictures, photos on EBT cards. I want to send the message that we support welfare, but we don't support welfare fraud. We have limited resources, and we have to stretch them as far as we can go. And one of the elements that has been a burden in the last couple of years has been those who have receiving funds, but they're here illegally. Now, am I compassionate about illegal aliens? Yes, I am. I would prefer they do it the right way, but it's very expensive because I've gone through that. We brought a young man here, and we did it the right way and paid the bill. But this is the problem with some of the illegals that are here today. When a refugee comes here from a foreign country, they get a medical assessment, and we know their health. But when they are here illegally, they don't get medical assessments. And one thing that we don't want to see is the uptick in hepatitis C, HIV, and tuberculosis, but it is here. We are dealing with it, and it's very costly. So if nothing else, they should be getting a medical assessment when they get here. And I believe that my responsibility as your governor is, number one, to Maine residents first and everyone else second. Over the last couple of years, I've been criticized immensely about my position on welfare. Well, I will tell you, I'm very, very proud of our record. Our administration has helped over 1,200 people to go from welfare to full-time employment. Our Welfare to Work program is moving Mainers from poverty to prosperity. Throwing money at poverty, and I lived through it, does not help people prosper. It never did, it never will. Instead, we are investing time and energy working with people who need our help to succeed. We are giving them the skills and the self-esteem they need to lead productive and satisfying lives. That's true compassion. My budget also addresses the drug epidemic in Maine. We are funding agents in the Maine Drug Enforcement Agency. We are funding more prosecutors, and we are funding more judges. We've attempted to do this now for a couple of years. More Mainers die today of drug overdose than they do on the roads of Maine. Babies continue to be born addicted to drugs. It is a serious problem. We've been saying it for a couple of years now, and we're completely ignored by this body. I plead with you, please help us get the drug dealers off the roads. We must save our children and our families from the poison that is being sold on our streets. We cannot allow vicious out-of-state gangs who traffic in drugs to use Maine as their marketplace. My plan will hunt them down and make them a guest of our state for the next 25 years. Another area that I really, truly need your help is high energy costs. It drives away businesses, it drives away Mainers. We must lower electricity rates and home heating costs. It's imperative. Maine's renewable energy policies are broken, they are expensive, and they're ineffective. I need not say, look at the mills of Millinocket, look at Bucksport, look at some other mills that have shut down just for 3 weeks, 4 weeks. That's because of energy. That's because they can't be competitive. I could have kept Bucksport open. All I needed to do is give the owners $20 million between December and April so they could pay the increase in fuel, not their fuel bill, the increase in their fuel. We are desperately in need of expanding natural gas, and we have to seriously look at our northern neighbors for the low-cost energy that is available. We have plenty of hydro here. We can just upgrade what we have. It would give us a significant boost of low-cost energy. It doesn't solve the problem, but it helps. And for the 5th year in a row, I will seek to lift the 100-megawatt cap on all forms of renewable energy. I favor any kind of energy that lowers prices for Mainers now, not 20 years from now. We need affordable and efficient hydropower, and we need more access to natural gas. Not just the high-priced, special interest energy that we have been dealing with for the last 5 years. It is not helping our economy. We should return money from the regional cap and trade program to businesses that are struggling with high energy costs. It would return millions of dollars to Maine ratepayers. We must help Mainers invest in more affordable heating options. And despite being flatly rejected by the legislature in the last 4 years, despite having the door slammed in our face, we have homes. Over 10,000 homes now have heat pumps. We have reduced our dependency on oil from 80% to 62%, and if you were willing to work with us, we could lower it even more. I believe in the next 4 years, we could lower heating costs for the home heating oil down to 20%. If we all work together. And heat pumps do not have the same level of emissions that do oil. Even gas is better, and heat pumps are very, very efficient. I ask you to give it some consideration. Once again, I will request to use $5 million from the increased timber harvest to help Maine families convert to lower-cost heating systems. For the last 4 years, we fought more affordable heating options for Mainers, but the legislature has rebuffed us. This hurts Maine. This hurts Maine families. I will say that we must expose what is truly going on in Maine. No Mainer should be cold in the winter. No Mainer who's 80 years old should wrap herself in a heating blanket weeks at a time because she cannot afford high cost of oil. But we're doing it because we're unwilling to work and think outside the box. It's a shame. There are many alternatives out there. And it's not about me and it's not about you. It's about Maine people. Furthermore, if we do nothing, our forest resource will be destroyed by invasive insects, as happened in the 70s and 80s. Back when I was elected in 2011, I said we're five or 6 years away. Guess what, folks? It's 5 years. And guess what? It's right at the border. We will, in the next few years, get hit with the budworm again. It behooves us to take the high-value resource out of the forests, help Maine peoples convert their heating systems so that we don't allow it to die like we did last time. In the 80s, we lost 15 million cords to the budworm epidemic. It's not sensible to do that again. Let's learn from the past. We truly can shorten this devastation while helping Maine families. It's a win-win. The First Lady, my lovely wife, has made her personal mission working with veterans and military families. My personal mission has been to fight against domestic violence. If you have not lived through this heinous crime, you cannot imagine how destructive it is and how unseen the scars and how deep they go throughout one's life. This past year, homicides in Maine dropped from 25 to 21. That's relatively good news. We're going on the right. However, domestic violence deaths were 14 of the 21. That's increasing. And even more dismal, of the 14 homicides that were related to domestic violence, 8 of those murders were of children under the age of 13. We need help. We need your help. I urge particularly the men in this room and the men in the state of Maine to stand up and make this crime socially unacceptable to all Mainers. As I approach my closing, I would like to say, I want prosperity, not poverty, for all Mainers, even for my adversaries. I think they deserve to have a little prosperity as well. My vision is an economy that allows all Mainers to thrive and succeed. I have been very, very fortunate in life. I've lived the American dream. And I think that every child born in Maine should have the same feeling I have had in my life. But it won't come without a lot of hard work by each and every one of us. Every Mainer deserves the chance to carve out a piece of the American dream. My budget is just the start. As I said, I cannot do it alone. I need your help. Will it change Maine? Yes, it will. I believe strongly. And if you look at societies and economies that have looked at getting away from a forced income tax to the sales tax, they are thriving. I believe we can do it. We must make sure that the income tax continues to go down every year until it's completely gone. So I ask you all to please consider putting forth a constitutional amendment that will direct all real growth in Maine to go towards eliminating the income tax once and for all. Governor Haley of South Carolina, when we go to our governor's meetings, always likes to say that they're #1 state in the country for tourism. Every year, they get somewheres around 40 million people visit the state of South Carolina. The state of Maine, however, over 90 days, gets 26 million people in our state. In the summer months, we have 26 million people who visit Maine. The rest of the year, we have 3 million. So we need to make sure that we surpass South Carolina while I'm governor. So I can go back to her and say, you're #2 now. I have no doubt that everyone sitting in this chamber this evening wants Mainers to prosper. But I will say this, it will never happen until we work together. We must be bold, we must think outside the box, and we must be willing to work together and have the debate on moving our state forward. Thank you.
Governor LePage is making his way down from the rostrum in the House chamber, shaking hands with members of the legislature and legislative staff. You've been watching and listening to Governor LePage give his 2015 State of the State address. And it was much as we expected. This was a budget address. And this budget includes a major tax reform proposal. I'm MPBN's Mal Leary. Joining me shortly here will be former State Senator Dick Woodbury, an independent or unenrolled lawmaker who served on the legislature's taxation committee. He's an economist by training and has been very involved in tax policy for several years. He's joining us to talk about the governor's speech and particularly about the governor's tax proposal. Dick, what's your reaction to this governor's proposal? I mean, you saw some of this come out in the budget, now you're getting the detail.
Yeah, we're getting more of the details, and there are certainly themes in this tax proposal that are similar to tax packages in the past. But there are aspects that are different too that have really put the governor's personal mark on them.
Such as?
The governor cares a lot about targeted benefits for seniors. This plan doubles the homestead exemption for seniors. It provides a large amount of an exemption of income from pensions from taxation. It does a lot of things for lower income and middle income families. You know, one thing this plan has is a very large, what I'm going to call a zero bracket, which means you can earn a fair amount of money in Maine under this plan before you have to pay any income tax. And that's different from some of the plans that have existed in the past.
Now, when you served on the taxation committee, you were one of the authors of the plan that tried to be revenue neutral, as the governor mentioned in his speech, which failed. But when that happened, there were people lined up the length of the second floor of the State House to testify against having haircuts taxed or greens fees taxed or ski lift tickets taxed. Isn't that going to happen again?
Well, that may happen again, but I would say in these past efforts, there hasn't been a governor who's felt strongly that we needed to accomplish tax reform. And I thought even tonight, the governor made the case that we're a state that has a lot of non-residents who spend time here, and he emphasized the vacationers, but also the 6-month minus a day retirees, the many people who have second homes in Maine. These are all people who can contribute to the cost of running Maine through the sales tax, but they don't pay income taxes. And that underlying philosophy is one that I think has motivated tax reform in the past, and that I think the governor did a pretty good job conveying today.
You tried to sell the tax plan a few years ago that was unsuccessful. Do you think the governor can be more successful with this plan, which really the big difference is there's a tax cut here, not just a tax shift?
There is, and so when you do the analysis of how people are affected by this plan, you'll see people's taxes getting lower across the entire income spectrum. So that may be helpful in selling the tax plan. What you worry about a plan like that is future years, and will there be sufficient revenues for doing the things the government wants to do. But in terms of selling the plan in the short term, that could be very helpful.
You've often talked about balancing the tax structure. Is eliminating the income tax entirely going to lead to a balanced tax structure, or do you think we need to maintain some level of income taxation?
Well, my preference would probably be to maintain some level of income taxation, but I agree with the governor that the direction of reform should be to draw more from sales taxes. And again, I come back to the idea that we have lots of non-residents here who pay that sales tax. And if we can draw more from them, that provides relief for Maine residents. So I think the direction of reform is right. The governor's emphasis on going to zero worries me a little bit, and particularly in terms of the potential of government to be able to meet its responsibilities in the future, as in will there be enough revenue if there's no income tax. But the direction of reform seems to me the right one.
Now, the governor, when I've talked to him about this, has said by expanding the base and growing the economy, there'll be more jobs, more people will be working, spending more money, and therefore we will have enough money to pay for all of this. Do you see that as something that can be accomplished?
Well, I do think that Maine has one of the top 10 income tax rates in the country right now. And I do think that some businesses, some people, some retirees make a decision not to be here as a result of that high rate. And I think moving to somewhere near the middle average of states could have an impact. Is it going to immediately drive a gigantic expansion of the Maine economy? No, probably not. But again, I think it's the right direction of reform to get our income tax down a bit at least, and make up those revenues, at least to some degree, from increases in the sales tax.
Dick Woodbury, thanks for joining us with your analysis of the governor's tax portion of his State of the State address. We're going down now to the floor where Jennifer Rooks has House Speaker Mark Eves to talk about the Democrats' response to this plan.
That's right. Speaker Eves heads the House of Representatives, which is the body that still remains in Democratic control here, control of the Democratic Party here at the State House. Speaker Eves, what's your reaction to the governor's speech tonight?
Well, you know, there's some things we heard that we liked, and there were some things that we heard that we have strong concerns about. We are a bit concerned about the governor's budget proposal as it relates to the tax shift onto the middle class. We really feel, after some time to review the budget, that the middle class is being squeezed. You know, the corporations and wealthy are getting a tax cut at the expense of the middle. We have a big concern about that. We are concerned about property taxes rising in this budget. We're concerned about education not being funded in the future, and we're really concerned about rural Maine getting crushed in the governor's budget. It was good to hear the governor say that he has an open door. He wants to work, he wants to negotiate with us. That's what it's going to take to get a package that really moves Maine forward as part of Maine's comeback story. We need to be focused on job creation. That's what Democrats have been focused on. That's what you're going to see us be focused on the years to come. So there's some to like, some that we have a lot of concerns about, particularly as it relates to the tax shift proposal and the burden on the middle class.
Speaker Eves, explain that, because the governor makes it sound as though this is going to be a benefit for the middle class. He uses the example, 2 teachers with 1 child and how much money they will save. What is your calculation, and why is it a different outcome than what the governor is saying?
When you look at all the proposals in the governor's budget, particularly the property tax relief programs that are going to be eliminated, including revenue sharing, including the homestead exemption that will no longer exist for most Mainers, it is a burden on the middle class. We don't think it's a fair shake for the middle class, and we're going to be focused in on the budget negotiations to make sure that the middle class gets a fair shake in this. It's a fair and responsible budget, that it's paid for, and that we are making sure we're focused on jobs and economy and growing good paying jobs here in the state.
Was there room for agreement in this speech tonight? For example, do Democrats support the idea of doubling the homestead exemption for senior citizens?
Sure. I think that you've seen Democrats be very supportive of initiatives that support seniors staying in their homes longer and living independently and having a more secure retirement. We have our Keep Me Home initiative that's going to make sure that we're focused in on that. But we have to make sure that we are not losing that exemption for everybody else. The homestead exemption is one that we feel like middle-class Mainers have come to rely on and really benefit. It does a lot for property tax relief. I think the proposal to double it for seniors is good, but we can't forget about the rest of the Mainers out there that are struggling to pay their bills, particularly the property tax bill.
The governor clearly expressed some frustration that last year the legislature did not pass his proposal that had to do with funding for expanding the heat pump program. Says that he wants $5 million this time around. Your reaction to that?
Well, we are certainly want to look at heat pumps. I think the 10,000 homes that have them now are better off. We want to look at that as a policy to make sure that we are doing all that we can to make sure that energy does cost less for Mainers. So I think it's about the funding source, not the policy. We certainly are in agreement that heat pumps are part of the solution, but they're a small part. They're not the entire picture. So we do need an all-the-above approach to make sure that we're getting energy costs down in this state, and we look forward to working with the Republicans and the governor on the energy policy, on the tax policy, on negotiating a budget that is fair and responsible for the middle class.
Speaker Eves, any final thoughts as you head into the night with the full moon out there?
I think that's about it. We're really focused on our priorities of growing jobs in our state, increasing wages, and making sure seniors can live independently in their homes and have a secure retirement.
All right, well, thank you very much. That was Speaker of the Maine House, Mark Eves. Mal?
Thank you very much, Jennifer, and thanks to Speaker Eves for joining us. You've been watching the 2015 State of the State address by Governor Paul LePage. You can get it online at mpbn.net, and it will be repeated on MPBN Radio. For MPBN